the one on the end. Up top, okay. Oh, yeah. Check one.
All the way to the front, people. No, they might not be, so sit up front. It's gonna look good for the video, you know what I mean? Look, like, can't have Brother Size talking to one person. Ready to go.
Yeah. Testing, testing. No? Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, we're ready to go, and they gotta sit up first 4 or 5 rows. Okay. All right. Yeah, there's the sign in the thing. Okay. But
It would have been easier to leave the sign and shit at the table.
they were all over there. But
Testing 1, 2.
why don't you just bring it in and they can just do it while they're in there? Yeah, I can just take the sheet right up here. Sorry, y'all. Just pass it right around, all right?
Okay. All right.
Testing, 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 testing. This one fine.
Everyone signed in? Yeah. Okay. All right, you got to ask people if they signed in. First 5 rows.
I could do either. Back there?
Yeah, on the light area, so that way
Yeah, I can do that.
there's no light right. Okay.
Testing, 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 testing.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me get one more. Good afternoon, everybody. There we go, there we go. Hi, everyone. I remember you guys from class. My name is George Chip Greenwich. I'm a PhD student in Race and Urban Studies here at Georgia State University, and I'm glad for you guys to be a part of our first annual symposium on race and urban culture and campus diversity, okay? Before we start our formal program, which will start at 3 o'clock, is that we wanted to have you guys just talk with Brother Sy, as I call him, SY Stokes, about some of the stuff that he's been doing on his campus, or at his campus a couple years ago. Some of this stuff might get repeated in the next 10 minutes, but we're just going to I wanted you guys just to actually meet some kind of activism before we even started the whole formal program. Okay? So the first thing is, what grades are everyone here? How many freshmen do we have here? None? Good, good. Sophomores? Okay. Juniors? Seniors? And the outstanding 5+ people. Where are you guys at? All right, that's great, that's great. Very proud. One thing, as you guys know, that Georgia State is a school very much known for its diversity. It's recently been ranked as one of the, I think it's the top 10 schools in the nation for its diversity of its student body. That's good things that we got to hear, but also there's a lot of stuff that we have to work on as well with a diverse student body. One thing that I want you guys to know is that many of us think that this is a true reality of what goes on college campuses because this is your college campus and so forth. However, across the nation, it's not really what we have. We have something we call Oz. You know, the Wizard of Oz, you go there, everything in rose-colored glasses and so forth. We have a different kind of way that we're looking at the world. So what I wanted Brother Sy to do, Sy Stokes, is to talk about his own organizing on campus at UCLA and talk about how he organized, how he got involved, and just his background. So before we go into it, we have the video and all that other stuff. I'd just like to Sy just to say hello. We welcome you from California. You're a little bit jet-lagged. Give it up. All right. So just give us your basic background. Where you from, you know, and how'd you graduated this year, correct? Yeah. So just give us your basic background.
My name is SY Stokes. Thank you all for coming out. But yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. If anybody's been to California, raise your hand. All right, cool. So you know where the Bay is, hopefully. Oakland, Richmond area. So I grew up there, went to UCLA for college. Just graduated back in March, like a quarter early. So I'm fresh out. So I'm only 22, so I'm basically your age too. But this video, before I even begin to talk about anything, I need you to all understand that everything that my perspective is a third-party perspective. And it's a privileged perspective because the image that I portray is not of a typical black male. And that's the privilege that I have. And I'm using this platform in a sense where, you know, my other black peers were silenced, and I had the privilege of not being silenced because of the way I looked. So I kind of used that to my advantage as best as I could, but obviously I couldn't do it alone, which you'll see in the video. I'm actually black, Chinese, and Cherokee, so it was kind of a different mix. But yeah, I mean, everybody thinks I'm Filipino anyway, so yeah. But yeah, enjoy the video. I'm sure I don't know if you've seen it already, but if not.
So. Yeah. But before, can you just talk about just your background growing up, just quickly? Where'd you grow up and all those different pieces as well, your parents and so forth?
Yeah, my mom actually immigrated here from Japan. She's Chinese, but she immigrated here from Japan when she was 11. My dad, he was like he was a military guy. He just went around everywhere with his dad. So they actually ended up landing in the Bay Area, and he was the first and only black person to ever graduate from his high school because they grew up in a predominantly white area because my grandpa was actually the first black dentist in Northern California. So they came from somewhat of good money after a long time, but they were never welcome. So my dad pretty much never wanted me to go through that. So growing up, having a dentist as a dad, it was amazing. I was blinded from everything else in the world. And my mom was actually his manager, and so they both college educated. I was the most privileged kid you could ever think of, and I thought I was until I went to UCLA, of course. But compared to my friends, I was privileged. And my parents actually sent me 45 minutes away to a different high school because the ones around my neighborhood weren't good. So I had that privilege of also going somewhere else and being able to access these certain spaces. So then when I ended up at UCLA, it was kind of that first culture shock for me. I didn't realize how good I thought I had it, but then how bad it was compared to the people at UCLA who were just rich as hell. So I mean, it was definitely a huge shift for me. But this video is pretty much about the impact that culture shock has on people, not just psychological, but also physical sometimes. So yeah.
And right before we start the video, I'm trying to do a lot more prelude before the video. I want to talk about your personal experience your freshman year, landing on campus. What did you see the first week on campus? What were some of the things that were just to you that just said, "Whoa, I'm in a different space"?
I think the first thing is I was one of two black people in my dorm. So there's almost 1,000 people in the dorms, like on that top row, and I was one of two. And I mean, I'm only like half, and the other guy was half, so it's like one full black guy. So that's like none. And the only reason why I met him is because I used to cut hair, and I still do. But like nobody in Westwood was able to cut like that type of hair. So there was just like this black dude came up to me, he was like, "Yo, do you know how to do this?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course. I come from Richmond." But I was like the barber for every black person at UCLA because no one in Westwood is able to, because they just like if a black person walked into a salon or whatever, like they would literally turn them away, like to this day, because they're like, "Oh, we don't cut your kind of hair." So it's like that happens at UCLA right now. But that's the only reason why I met him. And so that was like the first day that I moved in. And when I was moving in, this person, I moved in basically by myself. My parents helped me move in for a little bit, but they just flew back home. And I was just watching these kids move in, and this like sorority girl and this frat dude pull up at the same time. One of them was driving a Lamborghini, and then one of them was in a limo. And I was like, okay, maybe these are really important people or something. But no, they're just like normal students. And they were starting like moving their stuff out of their Lambo. And then the girl in the limousine got her chauffeur to move her in for her. And then like she didn't even like touch a bag the entire time. And I was just like, yo, this is like where I'm at right now. Like, what is going on? But that was like my first impression of UCLA. It's just like these, I'm not gonna be real, I'm just rich white people. And I was like, I don't know where I'm at right now, and I'm extremely uncomfortable. But that was like the first image of UCLA that I got. And then from then on, it's just perpetuated throughout the next 4 years. So, yeah.
All right. So what we're about to do is show the video right now, and then we're going to get into some discussion and also going forward what we're going to do here about Georgia State. So please, the video.
In fall 2012, the total enrollment, graduate and undergraduate, for African American males at UCLA was 660 students. That's 3.3% of the 19,838 other males enrolled here. Out of that 660 African American male students, 65% are undergraduate athletes. The number of entering male freshman students was 2,418. Only 48 of them are African American. The graduation rates for African American males at UCLA is 74%, which means out of that 48 freshmen last year, only 35 are predicted to graduate. When we were children, we learned how to mix colors with a paintbrush. We learned that white mixed with anything makes it brighter, but we wouldn't dare mix anything with brown or black, or else our entire creation would be ruined. What we failed to realize was that the untouched dark section of the paintbrush palette became the symbol of the melanin in our skin. The painter only used us to write words that were dark enough to be noticed on a white background. So if words are all we are good for, then don't you dare tell us to silence our voices when we choose to speak. Now you tell me that I should be proud to be at UCLA when only 35 of us are predicted to walk across that stage, when most of us are dropping out from the lack of financial aid, while Judy Olian, Dean of Anderson School of Management, just spent $647,000 on first-class flights and hotel stays. But waiting for an apology is asking for the impossible, because no snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. But you tell me I should be proud to be a Bruin. When we have more national championships than we do black male freshmen, it's evident that our only purpose here is to improve your winning percentage. So now black high school kids can care less about grades, just as long as the number on the back of their jersey doesn't fade. And you tell me I should be proud to be a Bruin. But according to Professor Sander, 3.3% is far too many black kids. On its perfectly paved roads, there are far too many black kids. This school is not diverse just because you put it on a pamphlet. But you'll name a building after Albert Conasall, who publicly opposes affirmative action? The action that can make our fraction on your demographic pie chart look more than just a second hand on a clock. It's all talk, just to maintain this fraudulent reputation of this institutionalized racist corporation. They don't care about the cultural limitations of being a minority in society, so we have become our own painters, with our own palettes, and we have voices that speak defiantly. So we ignite the flames to help us find the path to our future. Increasing graduations, not incarcerations, transforming education because our numbers can't be any fewer. So don't be surprised that we have become rebellious for what has happened to us. When every black student in class feels like Rosa Parks on the bus, we are trying to rewind time with role reversal as our revenge, because we have no other choice when the university refuses to come to our defense. But we have come too far to let history repeat itself, even when they are peeling off the dark fur of the Bruin pelt, because our faces are just used to cover up from the public what's really inside. Revitalizing lies to perpetuate your disguise. Stop pretending that the wounds of our past have healed. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for a level playing field. Those with less opportunity are fighting for their position, trying to find their place. But those with privilege are hitting triples when they were already born on third base. So with all my brother's hopes and dreams that this university has tried to ruin, how the hell am I supposed to be proud to call myself a Bruin?
And then we're just going to start with some basic conversation. Then we have a couple of people that will come up and talk with us on the panel. So we just want to welcome everybody. The first thing is, what was the reception on campus? When you hit that button and said upload, press, what happened the next day or the next few days?
Well, we didn't actually do this with intentions of making it viral or nothing. We just wanted administration to see it. So if 3 people saw it, but they were all from administration, that we didn't care as long as that happened. But when we uploaded it, it was actually 10 p.m. at night. So we were like, all right, well, people probably see it in the morning, so it's whatever. But I uploaded it, and then when I woke up the next morning, my mom called me. She was like, "What the hell did you just do?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Look online." And I looked, and it was around 12,000 views, and I was like, and I don't know how it happened because we uploaded at 10, and it was 6 in the morning when she called, and I was just like, I don't know who's watching this, but cool, it's whatever. But that's it. We were excited about 12,000, and we thought that was a big deal. And then by the end of the day, it was at 100,000, and that's when we knew, oh shit, this is real. And so we had to really assess what we were going to do, because every single person in this video is actually part of the Black Male Institute. That's a research group. It's an undergraduate research group at UCLA. And every single person on there, the reason why I had them in the video was because I knew each and every one of them was educated enough in this certain topic to pretty much, not fight against anybody, but pretty much have a very educated argument with anybody who tried to demean us in any way. It is very difficult if you don't know, the research behind it and all that. Someone could just come out with some just way out of the park argument and act like they're right. But if we have research behind it, we know that we did the work. We put the work in for the past 4 years before, or 2 or 3 years before this, pretty much subconsciously prepping for this. So when the time came, we were all ready. But the backlash we got, it was as expected. We only 2 administrators were positive in their help, and actually both of them I'm still very close to. But other than that, all the other administrators, every single other professor was pretty much against us. We had a lot of student groups on campus that were protesting it. We got some heated arguments on campus. Obviously, cops got involved, and that's never good for black people at UCLA. So we were just like, well, everybody's against us, literally. We have no protection at all. So we had to take it to a national platform. So when news outlets started to come out asking for like interviews and whatnot, I was able to delegate it to everybody in BMI. So MSNBC, CNN, BET, Huffington, like all that. Like we were able to have like separate interviews with each and every outlet, and we were able to get our narrative out before they were able to create a narrative for us. Which is exactly what they were trying to do. News stations were saying, like, we're attacking me personally, saying, like, oh, why is he doing this? Like, he's not even black, blah, blah, blah. And they're attacking me personally, but it was like, wait, what about the stuff in the video, though? Like, what about what I was saying? But they don't care. They're going to try every single thing to try to kind of pick it apart and make it so, they don't look as bad. So that was the first thing we started noticing. So we started pushing our own narrative as hard as we could. We got invited to a lot of high-end places. I got invited to Reverend Jesse Jackson's birthday. Super random, but it was at a Beverly Hills hotel, and he hit me up. He was like, "Hey, you want to come to my birthday?" I was like, "All right." So I brought everybody in the video, and we were just like, we were able to sit down, talk to him, and then Shaka Khan serenaded us, and I was like, "Okay, well." This has nothing to do with our research, but I guess. So we actually were able to sit down with him in like a private meeting the next day and, to finally, get some actual work done. But unfortunately, when it comes to politics, and we learned the hard way, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you're about. If you have a political agenda, you're going to want to pursue that in a pretty selfish manner. And that's just politics. That's nothing personal. But we realized that with Reverend Jesse Jackson, where he was getting onto what was hot at the time. And he wanted to pretty much try to take control. And we didn't want to let that happen because this was a student-based thing, and we wanted to make sure that stayed that way. And he was trying to push his own political agenda, and we just didn't want to be a part of that. And this new wave of social media activism, I guess you can say, is something that generation pretty much, like, they never had to experience. They never really they had a whole different way of going about things. And so to see that and to see them try to implement these like old school ways, like, oh, we're going to have a march, we're going to do this. I'm like, all right, well, like we did all this on a video and all I did was upload it. So obviously we need to use this platform to our advantage, and we can't just keep doing marches because it's like these days it doesn't work. Like I'm sorry, it really doesn't. Like times have changed to the point where those old school ways that they were trying to implement just didn't really go well with us. So unfortunately, we had to stop working with them. We had to stop working with a lot of people like that. And it got to the point where we, had to make our own push to find donors, to find whatever we could to try to get the funding to really push our narrative. Because obviously money is involved in everything. And so we wanted to pretty much, get BMI involved as much as we could, but it all came down to money. So, yeah.
Can you just give us, I know you had the stats in the video, but I really want people really understand what the numbers are at UCLA.
It's about, at most, 4% black. So everybody in this room, I haven't seen this many black people in a room in a long time.
I haven't brought him onto campus yet, y'all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He just got off the plane. He just got off the plane and got here. So we're going to bring him over there today.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like a miracle if I saw this at UCLA. So, like, that's how bad it is. But, yeah, you can pretty much fit every black person at UCLA into this room. So it's pretty sad.
So what are the numbers? Do you know the numbers offhand? Like 30?
Not offhand, but I know it's 30,000 people at UCLA, and then 4% are black. The majority of those are athletes, so they're on scholarship, and not academic. So most of them are athletic scholarships because the push for athletic scholarships is insane at UCLA. Like they will go to your house, they'll do all that, but when it comes to academic scholarships, they don't care. Like, they will not reach out to you if they see you're, a VIP scholar. That's what we call them. If they see you're like an outstanding student, outstanding black student in LA, you will never get a call. But we had a few students that had like a 1.8, 2.0 GPA coming out of high school, and they got like visits. The coaches were just parading them with everything, and we were basically trying to be like, well, how come we can't get how come we can't get the same treatment for people who are excelling in education? So that's kind of the message they were trying to portray to us. Like, this kid with a 1.8 who probably, could get good grades, but just his mentality is way different because he realizes, maybe I can't get in with grades because this kid with a 4.5 can't get in, so I have to play sports. So it's just kind of this sad narrative that keeps going on and on. But that's UCLA. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but I mean, if some people from UCLA came and saw this, they would think it's ridiculous. I mean, this is so many black people to us. Like, yeah.
Another question I have is talk about just classes, like being in class and participating in class from what you've seen of other students, other minority students on class. How did they participate? What was some of the feelings of that? Because I think they have a different viewpoint, but go for it.
I think the microaggressions were just they just keep adding on and on to you.
Can you explain microaggression?
Oh yeah,
please?
it's just, an example of a microaggression is if you're in a class, for example, mostly science classes. If you're in a science class, you'll be one of probably the only black person in a classroom about 300. So to feel that already when you walk in is already sucks. But then when it comes to like, okay, everybody can do a group project, everybody will turn away from you. Like, nobody will even look at you, and they'll immediately go opposite directions, and they'll ask somebody else. I've never met a black person at UCLA that's been like included in classroom activities. We always have to like literally go out to you like, hey, do you have a group? Do you have a group? Okay, and then we have to stand in the front of the room with the teacher as she says, hey, does anybody not have a group? Because this person needs it. So that happened to pretty much every one of us, and it happens every class, every quarter, and we just kind of have to deal with it. And people have extremely low expectations of us, but at the same time, that means that we have the highest expectations in the entire school because people already expect failure out of us. So if we fail, it's like, well, I saw it coming. But then if we do an amazing job, we have to excel to a point where they have to respect us. And so that makes it so we have the highest expectations out of anybody in the school, which is a burden on black students since we don't have any support to really help that out. So it's a kind of just a perfect storm of hell. But yeah.
I have two more questions, and I'm going to open up to the audience. What's the staff diversity and the professors and the administration? What's the diversity on that side too? Have you looked at that data as well?
Yeah, there was a big problem at UCLA about that. The staff was actually feeling. I mean, the black professors were feeling extremely discriminated against by other professors. They weren't taking it seriously. I could probably count the amount of black professors at UCLA on two hands, probably less. It's ridiculous. I mean, I know every single one of them by name, and they all know every single one of the black students because it's just that small of a community.
So how many professors I bet you?
I would say at most 11, maybe, but I know one left. So yeah, it's like around there. Yeah.
Right. What I'm going to do right now, I have a good friend out there, Miss Regina. Would you like to help play some Sister Oprah right now and get some questions from people in the audience? We have a mic right over there. I think there's a mic right there, too. You can use that. Just say who you are to let people know.
Hi, good afternoon.
I think you have to turn off the mic. Turn on the mic.
I don't want to touch it. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't look as old as I actually am, so I'm extraordinarily technologically challenged. Media, audio, yeah. I can talk loud, so I'm not even going to mess with this. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Regina Finan. the first thing that I want to ask everyone is, does anyone know whether or not Georgia State University has a diversity strategic plan? Just hands up. Does anyone know? If yes, hands up. Okay. Wow. Like one person. Maybe two. You should know. Yeah. Okay, so Georgia State University actually does have a diversity strategic plan. It was put in place for 2011 through 2016. And I just want to share the information that's on this plan. And then we're going to kind of get into you guys being able to share your thoughts and comments about things. So I'm just going to share its 4 goals: student diversity, to build and sustain the representativeness, inclusiveness, and engagement of a diverse student body. Faculty diversity, as we were just talking about, to build and sustain the representativeness, inclusiveness, and engagement of a diverse faculty. Stop it. Great minds, greatest minds. Staff diversity, the same thing that I just said. And then disability diversity. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that number 1, Georgia State University has a diversity strategic plan, and that number 2, those are the 4 things that are on it. So with that said, I'd invite anybody to come on up. There's microphones on either side, and talk a little bit about why campus diversity is important, and then beyond that, what it means to you here at Georgia State.
We can think on that real quick, but I want people also, any questions that you have for SY? Anybody? You can raise your hand where you're at. We'll come to you with the mic. Do I have any hands? Any questions about some of the things? Yeah, we'll come to you to the mic. Go ahead. Anyone have a question? Question? Audience? Thank you.
Hey, mate. What was your response from former UCLA minority graduates? Like, did Kareem get in touch with you? Did Russell Westbrook get in touch with you? I mean, you're right about that. Obviously, the academic, the athletic component of UCLA. 109 championships. They dominated basketball for like 20 years. So how was their response? Did anybody talk to you about that?
Yeah, Jim Mora, our football coach, he hates me. Like, hates me. Because when this video came out, it was right before pretty much all the applications went in for enrollment. And so that's when the recruitment was heavy. And they had at least 4 or 5 recruits back out just because of the video, which made me happy because I could give a shit about our football team. But, at the time, it was like a big deal because Jim Mora pretty much just got there. And so he was telling people, like, oh, my God, why do you have to do this? Like, this is crazy. Like, this is so inaccurate. But, he knows what's wrong. He sees it on his own football team. It's not only like the athletes get a really bad rap at UCLA. It's to the point where people disrespect them so much that if you're compared to an athlete, it's an insult because they're like, oh, you only got here because of that. But a lot of athletes are geniuses. I don't know how they balance all that in one year, and they still get like 3.5 GPAs, still have scholarships on academics too. So there are athletes out there that are doing a tremendous job. But it gets to the point where those athletes that aren't, UCLA has these really sketch kind of things they do. Athletes can't choose certain majors. If they have to go to a counselor as soon as they get to the school. And if they wanted to go into business, for example, they can't. You have to either go into sociology or some North Campus major, African American Studies, Chicano American Studies. So it's like kind of these majors where you can graduate. Usually you minor in because they realize like they want their athletes to be able to be eligible. And it's kind of sad because a lot of athletes graduate from UCLA, they don't go pro, and they realize they just had a major that they can't even use, and they're not even passionate about. So it's athletes are given a really bad rap, and it's to the point where a lot of athletes had a lot of backlash to this video. They didn't like it because they thought that I was generalizing them, saying like, oh, every single one of you only got in because of grades. It's like, no, obviously not. But that's UCLA's primary goal, is to get to those people that with sports rather than academics. So that was the biggest downfall that I saw, and there was pretty much no outreach for academics for us. So
Couple more questions, please.
As you guys are thinking around questions and kind of what I threw out in terms of what campus diversity means, I want you to think about what SY shared with us. 4%. 4%. Does anybody know what percentage black students are at Georgia State? Shout it out.
what?
I think it might be 38, but it's somewhere in that area. And I want to say that technically, I believe that we're 1 percentage above white student enrollment. I'm correct. Cha-ching. So think about what he's saying in terms of what he just came from. 4%, and we've got 38%, technically the majority on this campus. Has anyone ever been the only black student in a classroom? Stand up for me if that's ever been the case for you. The only black student in a classroom. Anybody? At Georgia State. At Georgia State. Here at Georgia State University, has anybody ever been the only black student in a classroom? Nobody?
Nobody?
Oh my God.
So just think about some of those things as you're thinking about how to address the question of what campus diversity means to you, and maybe as you formulate what kind of questions or what you want to share with SY.
I have a quick question. Did this video come out prior to you graduating? Because you say you just graduated in March, correct?
Oh yeah, this came out 2 years ago.
Oh, this is 2 years ago. So were you worried that this might affect your graduation, or if they were going to try to find a way, and I guess within the Constitution or whatever contract you have that you sign onto UCLA, were you afraid that they might try to stop you from
Yeah, I thought I was going to
graduating?
get kicked out. Like, I really did. And my parents pretty much were mad just because of that. They're like, what are you doing? But I had to do it, and it was definitely necessary. But I made sure I did all the precautionary things before coming out with the video. I was actually really good friends with the dean of discipline at UCLA. He was actually one of the only other black administration people in his administration that were black. And so he helped us out with BMI a lot, the Black Mental Institute. So knowing him, I told him, like, hey, if I get in trouble, I'm going straight to you. And so are you going to get me in trouble? Like, what's good? And he was like, well, technically every single thing in here is public information. So it's not like I'm going around saying some private stuff about professors. So technically you can do whatever you want with that information. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. So Judy Olean, the person that spent $600,000+ on like hotel stays and first class flights, she really doesn't like me because I called her out by name. Yeah, so she got a lot of backlash because that actually happened 2 years prior to this video. And she was like, man, you're bringing up old stuff. I'm like, you're still doing it. So it's like, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I definitely made sure I came with caution. So yeah.
Couple more questions in the audience. Please, right here.
Government get involved with possibly trying to change policy?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of it kind of sucks because at UCLA, I'm not sure about you all, but I'm not sure. Do you guys have African Student Union or Black Student Union? Yeah. For us, it's like pretty much. I don't know who actually enjoys being in the African Student Union for us. It's very frowned upon at UCLA because we don't agree with a lot of things they do. It's a lot of it's centered around politics, and it's just there's a lot of drama involved. And so the Black Mental Institute, the reason why we even became a thing is because ASU wasn't doing anything. And so we were like, we have to do something about this because we have all these student groups on campus, but they're still within this structure, this, white-dominated structure. You're working within it, and you're trying to do things, but it won't work that way. You have to go outside of it and pretty much do everything from that platform. So that's what we did. And we went to social media. We went to certain people outside of the school so we don't have to be trapped within this institutional framework. So when it comes down to like ASU helping us out, we didn't want that. We wanted to do strictly through BMI because we did have all the research, all the resources we needed at the time to do it by ourselves. And any other kind of student group that wanted to collaborate with us, we were all open for it. But if they wanted to push their own agenda, we immediately got out because we knew that people were going to try to do certain things that were selfish and weren't even what our primary goal was. So it's definitely difficult at UCLA because we don't have a population like this. So, I mean, the very tiny black population we do have, it's already split. So split that in half, and that's the people that are helping us out. And so the other half is just like, they didn't even agree with the video. So it's kind of a shame. So
Go ahead.
So why did you continue to stay at UCLA?
this is a really good school. I mean, that's pretty much the easy answer. And plus, like, I wasn't going to leave and then risk, being out of school for any amount of time. My mom is, like, super Asian mom. And so she's, like, traditional, like, yo, school is everything. So if I would drop out, she would beat my ass. I mean, like, it would be bad. So I was like, I know that's not an option, but if I get kicked out, that's not my fault. Like, it's like, that's on them. But I did everything I could to, maintain my grades and everything, so they had no reason to kind of pick at me. And I made sure I was friends with professors, too. I mean, I had some really supportive professors where if anything popped up, I'll go straight to them, and they were able to help me out. So, yeah.
Okay. We do have a quick PowerPoint I wanted to just go through. Are we able to do that right now, sir? Just want to let everyone know that this has been supported by a student organization on campus called Greatest Minds. I'm the president of it, and there's many members here. Members, wave your hands up. All right, the Greatest Mind members in the room, thank you guys for all your support, for actually putting this on. This is something that we decided to do with the Black Student Alliance, Black Graduate Student Association, and also we have our outstanding president who decided to help us fund this through Organizations United. Sebastian Juan Para, say hello. Good, good, good. I'm going to invite him up in a few minutes just to give some comments as well. But I just want to make sure everyone knows that this is what was supporting this. Also, we have a lot of support from a lot of different offices on campus, especially my GRA assignment, which is the Office of Black Student Achievement. We're here with 2 staff members here as well. The director, where you're at. All right, Bernard McCurry, and also Kanisha Rowe. Thank you for being here. And we have several people that were part of our committee, our advisors, staff people that were here. Now, is Sherry here? Is she here? Civic Engagement? All right, all right. Regina, right there. Anybody else? Do I see anybody else? Ron, see you are, Ron. And all right, thank you. And also Dominique in the back with the Black Graduate Student Association. Thank you so much. All right, our next slide is, of course, this building. How many people have been to this building before? Okay. How many people have, this is their first time here. Did you guys know where this building was? Does anyone know what's housed in this building? Honors College. How many people here in Honors College? One hand. Okay. That's another discussion we need to have a little bit later as we close out today, is that we need to get more of us in the Honors College, all right? We should be all up in this building. So that's another thing, all right? Just want to make sure we knew that. The president's office is here, as well, also the Welcome Center. Next. This is an article in 1957 by our Signal newspaper, okay? Our Signal student newspaper came up with this article, and it was about when 4 black students try to enroll here, all right? Can people read that? It says, this is the opinion piece, you 4 did not seek something that is being denied to you. You have the opportunity to obtain opportunities at other colleges and universities. They met the AUC, okay? This was a student piece editorial. 7/12/1957. You are forcing your way in here, and you have not followed Booker T. Washington's advice about struggle constantly and severely. That was 60 years ago, okay? So when you hear the story of the work of SY and students, we also have this history here at Georgia State as well. So I want us to remember that, you know what I mean? That this is an institution that has been through this struggle as well, all right? That was 60 years ago, okay? Next slide. All right, I thank you for bringing up the strategic plan, all right? Great minds do think alike, but this is the document that the president has put forth maybe 5 or 6 years ago. All right, you guys should be familiar with this plan. You have to be. So it really is going to help you out as you think about what resources that you need. And our next slide. Is that it? And it's just the symposium. All right, we're really glad to have all you guys here. It's been a great 3 days. And I think the last 15 minutes is that we're just going to talk about what strategies of looking at the strategic plan that we can talk about ways that we can make this school even better as we tackle diversity. I would like our president to come on up, our student government president, to share some words, all right, and also just join the panel. Does everyone know this man? Yes, look, see, they all know you, all right? Give a big welcome. And does he need give him a handheld? Thank you.
Okay, just leaving me here. Hello, everybody. My name is Sebastian Parra. I'm the student body president, the president of the Student Government Association. Our student government is made up of every student who pays fees in the university. So I know other schools have graduate and undergraduate SGAs. Ours is all together. So right now we are about 32,000 students. In next year will be 50-something thousand students when we consolidate with GPC, because we will be one institution. We'll be all together. So I think that's a great thing for us, because we pride ourselves in being so diverse and being such unique. But now we're going to be the biggest university in Georgia and one of the biggest in the South, in the country too. So there's a lot of room for involvement. There's a lot of room for us to give ourselves a bigger platform in the state, nationally. When I became president last year, in May, this year, I got invited to a bunch of conferences, and one of the best ones that I attended to was the White House. The White House had a conference on racial relations. And so we were there in the White House talking to the student body president of Missouri University. He was like the first black president of the SGA in years. And he's been called the N-word. He's constantly being yelled at in the streets. Like, it's really racist up there. And he is being outspoken about it. And, we see a lot of those things, like people in the administration, people empowered, call him out. Also, my friend at University of USC in California, she's Indian. She's from Southeast Asian descent. And also, she's being called Indian and all these things. So to me, it was so shocking that in 2015, this is still happening. But it is. And that's why it's so important for people to George and you guys and people who do this type of conferences too, to know that racism is alive, to know that we still have a struggle to go through. I'm Hispanic. I'm the first Hispanic president of the Student Government Association, first Latino. So thank you.
Right on.
And I've noticed that people really loved our salsa and our tacos and things, but they don't want you taking leadership roles. They don't want you talking about the things that you care about. That's when you make them uncomfortable. But that's what we have to do. I don't know if you guys are aware, undocumented students in the state of Georgia are banned from this university. So there's this guy who was a valedictorian at a school in Atlanta, and he had all the merits to go to Georgia Tech, but he's banned from that because undocumented students in Georgia are banned from the top 5 universities. That's GSCSU, Georgia College and State University, Georgia State, UGA, Georgia Tech, and the Regents University. Why? You know how many students were enrolled in these 5 universities until this happened? 27 students. 27 students. So we're spending millions of dollars to verify all of us lawful status in our university to ban 27 students. Undocumented students in the university system of Georgia make 0.16% of the population. So 0.16% of the student population in USG, the University System of Georgia, are undocumented. That's about 500 students. We're going through extreme measures to ban people from education. Raise your hand if you pay taxes. Well, undocumented people pay taxes too. In 2012, they paid $351 million in state taxes. That's undocumented people in Georgia. They fund the very institutions from which they're banned. And the thing that baffles me the most is that through DACA, to the Defer Action for Early Childhood Arrivals, these people have permanent lawful status in America because of the president's executive action. But the state of Georgia wants to ban them. And, we spend, I don't know, a lot of money. Around, some estimates vary from $100,000 to $250,000 an average to educate an undocumented person from K to 12. So undocumented people are allowed to go to, K to 12, and it's funded from state funds. From your taxes, your parents and your taxes are funding them. But once they graduate from high school, good luck. Go see where you can go. So what do? They go out of state. They go to Kentucky. They go to Tennessee. They go to other universities. So we're spending all this money educating people from K to 12, and once they graduate from high school, they can go to college. So that's my 2 cents on diversity and the state of affairs right now. I think it's something that we should all be aware of. 60 years ago, students were being banned from this university because of their color of the skin. Today, they're being banned because of a paper, because they were brought here when they're 3, 5 years old by their parents. None of us had any say when our parents moved, when we were children, right? Our parents just moved. We go with them. Where are we going to go? So if my mom brought me here when I was 2 years old, I didn't have a say in that. And now I grow up in the country that I love, the flag that I pledge allegiance to, the language that I speak, and I can go to school here. So I'm sorry if I went over time. I just wanted to speak about that. I'm very happy to be in this university. Yesterday we went through some enrollment numbers. We're still graduating more people of color than any other university in the country. Hispanic students here do better than our non-Hispanic counterparts. African-American students do better at graduation rates than our non-African-American counterparts. So this is a place where you can succeed. You can be yourself. I dance my music at Plaza every Thursday. I speak my language. I eat my food. I love Georgia State because of that. But there's still a lot to go, especially in other schools and with our state. Thank you. So if you guys have any questions for me, I would love to take them, or any comments.
Okay, so before we go into that, I just want to say that I love that you bring up undocumented students. And just, in terms of adding a layer to that, the question of what does campus diversity mean to you? So, we've got some really great perspectives up here. SY is coming to us talking about, the extraordinarily small, I think that's saying it generously, number of African-American students from his former institution. And here, while we see pretty great numbers of African-American students, I love that Sebastian is bringing to us the issue of undocumented students, because I think a lot of people are so unaware of that issue. And not all states ban undocumented students from enrolling in college. But even the states who do allow them to enroll in college don't allow them to receive financial aid so that they can afford to go to college. So a lot of them have to go to community colleges first, bust their butts working full-time, maybe a couple of part-time jobs, so that they can pay for community college and try to save to transfer into a university. So I love that you bring that up as well. So really, I would love to hear a few more perspectives from anyone in the audience. I don't know whether it's a question or whether it's your own thoughts on what your experience has been at Georgia State around diversity.
I'm going to ask Sai one question. Can you talk about the Asian population at your school? Just what the numbers are.
I think it's 30-30, so 30% white, 30% Asian. And then black is 4%, yeah. And then the Latino population is actually one of the highest. It's actually around 13, and so that's a big deal for us. But LA is actually 49% Latino, so in comparison, it's really not that much. But it's pretty much 30-30, like 15-ish, and then from there it just trickles down.
So what's the discussion with Asian students on campus regarding diversity?
It's split. Some of them realize that affirmative action doesn't mean we're going to be kicking them out, but a lot of them do take on that kind of perspective, where they're like, okay, well, if we let more black people in that don't deserve it, then that means the super smart Asian person is going to get in. It's like, no, that's not the point. But that's their mentality. It's like, oh, affirmative action hurts us. But that's definitely not our aim, and it's definitely not the truth either. But it's definitely split based off of whether or not you want to be educated about it and whether or not you don't. And we have no choice on that because UCLA, up until this video came out, was the only university, only UC that didn't have a diversity requirement. And that means you don't have to take any course within any cultural, like ethnic studies or anything. Every other UC had it except for UCLA for the past 96 years. So until this video came out and they realized the whole world just found out, that's when they implemented it. But it wasn't until then that, they got it together. So
I think that's applause worthy.
I wanted to.
At our particular one, it is a lot of it is centered around education, and whether or not that means like actually sitting down and reading books, or I mean, it's not just based on that, but it's more about student groups going out and making sure that other student groups are aware of a common struggle, and also making sure that, I mean, our fraternity system, for example, is, I would say, at least 90% white, and so all of the racial tension that happens, I would say all of it is within the fraternities. If you go to a frat party, for example, it's bound to be a fight that happens, and so there's so much. Yeah, I'm gonna get that. Yeah, so it's like, for example, last week there was a blackface party in a frat. So this happened last week. It was called Kanye Western, and everybody, dressed up as Kanye, colored the face and whatnot. So you already know what went with that. And all the girls dressed up like Kim Kardashian, patted their butts and all that. So the Black Student Union, or not just ASU, but also a lot of just black people walking by the party, they were like, okay, something's wrong here. And they ended up having a giant protest right outside the party. And then slowly but surely, all these white people started, trying to like sneak through the back and go away. And when the protest died down, they started coming back, and the party started going up again. So then the cops were called and all that. And the cops were actually called by someone in the house saying like, oh, there's black people outside, and they look like, they're menacing pretty much. And they're like, they're on our property, which they weren't. They're on the sidewalk. But they were saying like, how come they're out there? And then when they all started to come out, they realized, damn, we messed up. So that just happened last week, and one of those things happens every year. So ever since I came in as a freshman, one of those type of things happen every year. Freshman year, there was another blackface party. The next year was it was cholos and something, but they all dressed up in like bandanas, went brown face, and they were just like, they had like sombreros, and they had like, I don't know, it was the most cultural appropriation I've ever seen. But that happens every year, and so that education within those frameworks, where we can be educated as much as we want, but we already know this stuff. So it's basically trying to reach out to those communities that are extremely ignorant in the things they do, and make sure they realize that, what they're doing wrong. Because, we can talk about all we want, but we're not the ones that need it the most. So we're trying to reach out to those communities.
More questions and we'll close out. I think we have a reception, a small reception outside for you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, definitely death threats, a lot of them, and those are all on the internet, so you can kind of have to take those with a grain of salt, but it is that fear factor that comes in, where it's like, okay, maybe one of these people is serious, and they're not just saying this behind a keyboard, and they're actually going to take initiative. So I couldn't go anywhere alone for the first 4 weeks at least, and so I had to have someone within this video that was with me at all times. So that was like the agreement we all had with the professor, with my friends, where like if Sai goes anywhere, we go with him. So it was great that my friends were there for me, but it was sad that they needed to be. So if I was walking in class or whatever, I had to be like text one of my friends, be like, where y'all at? let's go walk back to my apartment, whatever. So it was definitely, it got to that point, and I handled it as best as I could. But it does take a burden on you. You are uncomfortable in where you live. I had news stations following me around campus, showing up on my apartment. And so I used fake addresses to tell them where to go. And I met at other people's apartments to pretend that it was my apartment, so other news stations could just go there. And so it was just it was just ridiculous how my privacy was completely diminished after this video came out. But I mean, it was the sacrifice I had to make. So, yeah. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to comment about the how you were talking about the education. Is it on? I guess. Okay. I think that in any type of change, the first thing to do is education, because you can make the changes in yourself and you can make the changes in your environment, but the change is if you're trying to change your community, you have to inform your community, educate your community with issues like that, because what people don't realize is that things like that go on around here. They may not happen at Georgia State's campus, but I've witnessed blackface parties at UGA and at Georgia Tech and at Oglethorpe and different colleges. And so we were just like, how do people not know? And it was because no one taught them. You can't expect someone else to have the same education. So it's up to us to make sure that people understand that Black culture or Latino culture is more than Kim Kardashian and sombreros and tacos, and it's more than just what is perceived in the media or what they think is Black culture. So I definitely think that people who want to see change in the community, it definitely starts with educating the community and informing them on what we want to see as opposed to what they think is Black culture or Latino culture.
I was just wondering, how does student enrollment at Georgia State and grad programs and PhD programs racially differ from undergrad enrollment? And
Okay, so the question is, what does graduate student enrollment look like compared to undergraduate student enrollment by race? You want to take a stab at that?
Right. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I know there's a significant difference in the undergraduate, particularly African American undergraduate enrollment. And then I think I talked about this at the symposium on Tuesday. When you get to the master's and then eventually to the PhD levels, it's actually when you ask the question, how many of you have ever been in a class where you're the only Black person? I'm pretty sure if there were more master's or PhD Black graduate students here, many of them probably would have stood up. I'm a PhD student in the sociology department, and I just so happened to come in with the cohort that was about half and half. So it was about half Black, or half minority, and then half white. So that's never been the case with me. But let's say somebody who might be getting a PhD in computer science or some of the other disciplines, it would not be uncommon to be the only African American in that class. So the further you get, it starts to look a little more like what your reality is at UCLA.
So I would absolutely agree with that. I'm in a department where I work with a lot of graduate students. And I know that one of the things that can be concerning sometimes is there are significant differences in terms of testing. So when we look at GRE scores, there are differences in terms of who those types of tests are created for. So normalized on average, white male standards. So from that perspective, from that worldview. And so not everyone does as well on those types of testing standards. And so that can impact what it looks like when you start getting to master's and doctoral levels. And so there are a lot of conversations within universities about what kind of scores to accept on that level, because it can impact diversity. I feel like all the microphones disappeared. It's all right, I need the exercise. Thank you, sir.
We got like another 5 minutes, and the food is being set up, and then we'll have outside discussion to continue this. Okay, 5 minutes.
All right, this is a question for about undocumented students and the merger. I know that Perimeter was one of the schools that undocumented students applied to. So what happens once we merge for those undocumented students?
Great question. This has been the $1,000,000 question throughout consolidation, and every time I asked, it was avoided. It was like, don't worry, it will be taken care of. So finally, what I decided to do, so this is how it works. There was a consolidation committee in charge of consolidating the student governments. So I was the student from Georgia State, and they had students from GPC. That's under a committee. So that's our committee. The committee is under an area coordinator, and then the area coordinator is supposed to make the recommendations to the Board of Regents. Actually, to the Consolidation Implementation Committee, and finally to the Board of Regents. So I'm saying all of this because I made a recommendation that the students who are undocumented at GPC be allowed to continue to obtain their 2-year degrees at GPC campuses. And so from us, our committee, it went to our committee, other committee, and then from there to the area coordinator, from there to the CIC, from there to the Board of Regents. So what I've been told, and Bernard's going to kill me here, I don't know. I'll say it for the record. I spoke with the Vice President of Student Affairs, Georgia State University, Dr. Covey, and he said, do not worry. Those students will be allowed to continue to go there. So we made the recommendation, but he told me, don't worry, the students will be allowed to continue there. How much jurisdiction does Dr. Covey has in this? I don't know, very little probably, because it comes out to the Board of Regents, and we know how they feel about undocumented students. So that's one of the recommendations that we made, our committee. So this is not just me. This is the students at GPC feel that way too. There's like a couple hundred students who are undocumented there, and we want them to continue. Second, next Thursday in Savannah, all the student body presidents of Georgia will meet, and we're going to do a letter to the Board of Regents saying that we disagree with the policy that bans undocumented students. The policy is called Policy 4.16. Look it up. So I drafted the letter with the president of GCSU, and we're going to see how many presidents sign on it. So look out for that. If somebody here is from another school, pressure your president to sign on the letter. We're going to send a letter saying the student body presidents of Georgia disagree with this, and then we're going to send it to the Board of Regents. Who knows what happened after that. But yeah, as of right now, I've heard, for a long time I heard that, Georgia State is going to be one institution. Georgia State the Board of Regents bans undocumented students from coming to Georgia State. We assume that undocumented students will not be allowed to come. But then I heard from Dr. Covey that, no, they will be here. So yesterday we just announced that Dr. Peter Lyons will be the dean and provost for GPC. We have another member of our committee here from the Student Judicial Board. Raise your hand. Yeah, he's one of the members on the consolidation, and you can talk to him about that. So we recommended that they be allowed to. Dr. Covey has assured that they will. We'll see.
Great question. Thank you. Okay, so a few final thoughts, and then we're going to wrap it up and go out and enjoy the reception. I just wanted to share a little bit of research that talks about the importance of being in a diverse campus community. So some things that come up in terms of why it's important and what we get out of it. Individuals who are educated in diverse settings are far more likely to work and live in racially and ethnically diverse environments after they graduate. Individuals who study and discuss issues related to race and ethnicity in their academic courses and interact with a diverse set of peers in college are better prepared for life in an increasingly complex and diverse world. And increasing the compositional diversity of the student body is essential to create the kind of learning environment that's described. So this has ongoing benefits. It benefits all of us to have diverse communities. And it's more than just black and white people. It's Asian, it's undocumented, it's disability, it's sexual orientation, it's everything. So it benefits all of us. Society is moving towards a very multiracial place. This is a reality. And the sooner that we all embrace that and engage in it, I think the more harmonious our experiences are going to be. I just want to please give a round of applause to our guests up here. And George, thank you and the greatest minds for continuing to do these kinds of programs because it's so necessary. We're hearing why this is so necessary. And I feel very fortunate that we are at a campus where this kind of dialogue is encouraged and supported and actually takes place. So thank you. Let's go enjoy reception time.
Please pass in your evaluations, all right? And let's go outside and get some food. Thanks, everybody. And thank you for the staff here, up there in the booth and over here. You guys made this a seamless, outstanding event today. I thank you guys. Thank you so much.